Blog Talk Radio.
Hey folks, how you doing? I'm doing great. I've got my water, got a little bit of tea on the side just in case. I am so glad that you are here with us. Because again, we've got another great guest, but let's get to it. It's Harlem World Radio, and I'm Danny Tisdale, and it's the Danny Tisdale Show. Glad that you're all here. As I always say, if you have any questions, have someone you can recommend. Don't forget to hit us up at Harlem World Magazine, anywhere on your social media platform, Twitter, Facebook, wherever it may be. And today we welcome another leader, legend, and trailblazer as we celebrate Harlem, the greatest community in the world. And before we get started, let me say this came about through an article through one of our editors, Robert Walker in Atlanta, and his article, Robert's World, was WBLS's Dr. Bob Lee delivers the right medicine from Harlem to Hollis, posted on Harlem World Magazine, I think April 8th, something like that. And, well, you know who our guest is. But before we get to that, this gives us an opportunity, too, in a roundabout way to continue to celebrate, even though it's the end of the month, Black Music Month, and specifically in Harlem. But, we celebrate it all the time. But either way you call it, we've got Dr. Bob Lee with us here. He's number one in the number one radio market in the world, and that's New York City. He is Community Affairs Director for WBLS. He interned under the legendary Frankie Crocker. He has his own talk show, Open, on Bronx Net TV. He is the host or MC of everything that's anything, such as Circle of Sisters, Harlem Week, Apollo Theater, as well as others that you've probably heard of that range from media outlets, from acting in small movie roles to large. He was in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, Law and Order, film short Paris Blues in Harlem. He's been in movies such as with actors such as Samuel L. Jackson, Jeffrey Wright, Harrison Ford. He's been in television commercials. He's an author. And another piece that we love is that he's also a philanthropist working with WBLS in their On Time program. I think I've got that right, and if not, I'm sure he will correct me. Thank you, Dr. Bob Lee, for being with us. How are you today, man?
Danny T, I'm all right, man. I'm having a good time. The weather's beautiful, and I'm on with you.
Well, I'm saying this ahead of time. I just wish you would bring more energy to what you're doing. That your energy level. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, you got tons of energy. That was supposed to be a joke and not a very good one. Okay, so I'm going to my questions. I'm not a comedian, I guess, and so I should stick to what I do, and that's ask questions. So.
I hung out on all angles and all genres of music. I've done the weekend edition of the Quiet Storm, so I was able to lay back 107.5 WBLS and chill like that. And I did the clubs. Hey, we're here live. Everybody go down. So you can go all different angles.
Damn, brother,
low.
you just find the right medium and you can just turn it on. I love that. But that's a good segue because. Who inspired you to get involved in the work that you do? There must have been somebody, or did you just wake up one day and say, you know what, this is what I want to do. I got the voice, I got the personality, I've got all this. Who inspired you to get involved?
Well, actually, Danny, I was into sports, and I was playing football, basketball, boxing. Okay. And my sister and my mother had all of these records around the house, and after a while I began to pick them up and play them and mess with them a little bit. And so my mom and my sister on the music level, and then later on, people like Hal Jackson and the people from WWRL, they used to say, WWRL, we celebrate the rhythms of life, or put your foot on the rock, pat it, and don't you dare stop. And they used to bring their voices down like that. And when you saw them on stage, you said, wow, I think I can do that. So I started playing these little house parties all over the place, and it just went on from there. But, those are the people who inspired me in the beginning. My mom and my sister, and then people from radio, WWRL, and later on WBLS, Hal Jackson, Frankie Crocker.
Well, and when we were talking about doing the show and coming up with questions, I wondered if you played any sports, but we couldn't find anything to kind of prove that, and I didn't want to just go there anyway. So what sport were you playing? Were you basketball and football, or?
I played basketball and football. I was boxing. I boxed in the Police Athletic League. I did some amateur boxing at Lost Battalion Hall and Jacob Reese Center. And then I went on to the Golden Gloves and fought in the Golden Gloves, and then tried to make a decision to turn pro. But then that music bug said, let's go this way.
No. Follow me. So boxing was your thing.
Boxing was my thing, yeah.
Yeah, because that
put
makes
it all
sense,
in the mix.
And you put it all in the mix, and that makes complete sense. Because when I've seen the photos of you look like a big guy. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. He must play some kind of sports. And so then you. So how long have you been community affairs director for WBLS, and what has been the secret sauce of your success at doing your job? Because you seem to do it so well and do it effortlessly.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me all throughout the community what contributes to your longevity or your phenomenality with working out in the community. But I also come on after the Quiet Storm, by the way, each and every night, right after Lenny Green. And I bring you out into 5 o'clock in the morning where Donnie McClurkin comes on. And then I run out and broadcast with the Steve Harvey Morning Show out in the community. But staying out in the community, that was my niche. That's what I wanted to do. I found myself in the studio, lonely with a microphone. I knew I was broadcasting to thousands of people, but when I was out in the community, I was able to see the whole thing. I was able to see who I was broadcasting to. So I kind of became passionate about being out in the community. So that was my niche, just going out to different things, going to different places, schools, community centers, nonprofit organizations. You mentioned the On Time program a while ago. We started that with Ken Webb and Mr. Magic, and we were visiting the schools throughout the tri-state area trying to encourage students to stay in school and be on time and get a good education. Right. And then we put that principal on the air to talk about what's going on, what type of programs they have at the school, so parents listening can decide or make an intelligent decision whether or not they want to send their child to that particular school. Right. So that was my thing. And each time a new program director came into the station, they said, "Well, what about Bob Lee?" They said, "Oh, he controls the community." So I was able to stay in the community, and that's one of the things that contributed to my longevity there. So,
what is the secret to doing that kind of, community work? Because I know for a lot of people, that kind of community work is not their thing. What is the secret for, doing great community work like you've been doing for the many years you've been doing it?
Well, this is something that you have to love. This is something that you have to be passionate about.
That's right.
It's not a real secret. I mean, people can feel you when you're out in the community, when you give that little bit of time, and they look you in the eyes and you look them in the eye. Yeah. And, and they say, wow, we got to get involved in this social media. Well, guess what? That's the original social media. When you're shaking somebody's hand and looking them in the eye, and you're out there in the community, meeting new people every day. Your job is never done. Your job is never finished. So it's not a real secret. It's just being passionate about what you do.
Yeah, I guess that is true, because I love the community. And I guess that's really why I asked the question, because you really got to have that luck, because you can't fake the funk. You can't go out there acting like, you enjoy being in the community, because you don't know what to expect. Somebody from somewhere is going to do something or ask you a question you're not prepared for. So, yeah, you really that really has to be your thing. Because when I look at elected officials, I'm old enough to remember when elected officials went in the community and shook hands and walked around. But, you really have to you can really have to be user friendly to do that.
They do, yeah. And people can tell. Like, wow, this guy's really he's true to the game. He really feels us. He has time to talk to us.
Right.
He has time to shake our hand and look us in the eye and take a picture with us.
Or the other side, you know what? I'm not feeling him. You know, here he is in the community. You know, he's not really. You know, he won't even get out of the car.
You know, and there may be some instances like that because people. You may have a bad day that day. You may be sick and you'll be out in the community, but you still have to go to work. You know, sometimes you may have something you're thinking about the next day. Wow, my wife is pregnant. I have to get to the hospital. She's going to call me anytime. Something may be on your mind while you're out in the community, and I'm glad it doesn't happen like that all the time. I'm glad that for the most part, I have time for the people that I'm talking to. Yeah.
You know,
but you're only human.
You exactly, and people have to understand that. But I know that for the community, sometimes that's not what they're thinking. It's my time, and he's here, and he's all mine. And I typically for our listeners, I try to prepare the guests for the questions I'm going to ask. I don't try to come behind them and surprise them. So I did wanted to ask you, and this is not on my hit list I sent you, Dr. Bob Lee. Where does the doctor come from? Are you a doctor?
I didn't
added
get that list.
Uh-oh. Well, they probably knew that you were. They probably knew you had the flow, so they.
Well,
but I was
the doctor. The doctor came about at an early age. My father, of course, worked for. He was in the union, the local 32 BJ.
Okay.
He was a Pullman porter also, but then he got a job. That's his second job. He was a doorman, and inside of that building was a dentist and a doctor's office. So to make extra money for 9 of us living in a 3-bedroom apartment in Queensbridge,
wow,
he used to clean this doctor's office. So from time to time, me and some of my other siblings used to go with him and help him out, because I knew he worked long hours and he was tired. So
long day.
In this doctor's office, they had a long doctor's robe. They had a big black microscope. And I used to put that doctor's robe on after I finished doing what I was doing. And I used to sit and tried to make little things and look at them under that black microscope. So I made my own little movable microscopic animals, and I was taking swabs from the side of my mouth and all kinds of things that I could find. And I became pretty interested in that. So I got into the biology and the chemistry, and my father said, wow, he kind of likes that. So he brought me a microscope, and the doctor gave me his long doctor's robe. And so I would be in the house in Queensbridge, and when they wanted to go out and play basketball or football, whatever, they would come and knock on the door and say, let's go get Bob, come on here. And they'll see me, and they would see me in the house with this long robe on looking under the microscope. So that's when I first
in the house.
Named the doctor. But however, since then, of course, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and I've been working on a PhD in natural healings.
Oh, really? Is that right? Okay. So that will be official pretty soon then.
That's right.
Bob Lee. Right. And we're almost at that halfway point, believe it or not, and I just want to let our listeners know they're listening to the Danny Tisdale Show on Harlem World Radio, and we're talking to Dr. Bob Lee, one of the legends of New York City and really the world in radio, and especially just WBLS and so many different venues that we know and love, Dr. Bob Lee. But I wanted to, Dr. Bob Lee, go back and ask you about the work that you're doing with WBLS and the On Time program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a program that we started like a while ago with Ken Spider Webb. So myself and Mr. Magic going out to the different schools with the WBLS Juice Mobile. I don't know if you remember that name. We called those vans.
I remember it, yeah. Old enough to remember it. The original Juice Mobile was my own personal van. Told me to park mine after a while. And they got us 2 of them. Magic was in one, I was in another. And we just went from school to school, place to place, and trying to
students to stay in school and be on time. That was one of the things that we wanted to do. And Percy Sutton, that was he just loved it. That was like a big thing that he wanted to get involved in, and creating the goodwill of the radio station. So that's something that we did well. We got great ratings. We helped the station become number one back in the day, and we're still doing it now. I still visit schools. I visit the nonprofit organizations, churches, and things of that nature. We just went over to the school out in Newark, New Jersey, and we visited with a principal. He goes by the name of Akbar Cook. Right. And you probably saw him on the Ellen show. He was on there twice.
Okay. Yeah. I know I've heard the name
went over there,
yeah.
gave him $500,000. He's a young man that got over. They had a problem with the absentee. People didn't want to go to school because they didn't have clean clothes. So he purchased washing machines, and he got a room for them and put about maybe a dozen washing machines in the room, and kids can go in there and wash their clothes, and then they have another big conference room outside of the laundromat, and where they can study with computers and everything. So their clothes are washing, and the teachers are teaching right outside of that room. So we spoke about, we had him on the radio, by the way, on Steve Harvey Morning Show.
Nice.
And I brought him up because we're still doing what you call the on-time program, visiting schools throughout the tri-state area. And he was the guy that we had on last week. We had a 2-part series with him. But people
That's fantastic.
We spoke about him starting a business in there. They already have a bank in there, Capital One Bank, and kids are learning business. So we said, since you have the washing machines in there, why don't we start a business with the laundromat? So that's one of the things that we're sitting down and we're talking about.
That's fantastic.
Coming up next right there at that school. That's Westside High School in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah, and that's really great work, and that's work, again, I love those, situations and scenarios where, that's really work that you don't have to do, that you do, and, telling those stories about those little-known stories that are out there, and they're doing big work. And, with that, was there a time, Dr. Bob, when the lights went off and you said, the lights came on, and the clouds parted and the light shined on you, and you said to yourself, you know what, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the right place where I should be. Did that ever happen, or maybe not?
It did. It happened early on in life, too. You know what? I said, wow, I love this, and now I'm getting paid for it. I would do this for free. But, oh, wow, I found out that I had to make a living, and, I have children. Wow, I have bills. So, yes. Right. The light came on, and I said, wow, this is a beautiful thing right here. I'm in a place, I'll never work a day in my life because this is what I love doing.
Love to do.
So now I get paid for doing what I love. And there's lots of extra incentives. I'm an author now of 4 books. The latest one is People to Know in Black History and Beyond, recognizing the heroes and sheroes who make the grade. Black History and Beyond, taking that beyond outside of Black history, because every day is Black history. It's a part of American history. Right. And that beyond also indicates that, wow, although we know about the few that they teach us about, there's a whole lot more to it. Like the young ladies in Hidden Figures. Did we know anything about that before the book and the movie came out? Right. So it just helps you to want to examine it, to explore, and to go deeper and go beyond. So that's why this is volume 1. Volume 2 is coming out because somebody read the first book and said, well, what's the name? Where's such and such? I have a space in the back where you can add those things and you can contact me. Nice. You'll help out, automatically with volume 2. So it's a wonderful thing. I'm doing what I like, and I'm helping others get what they need out of life, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and it is important, and people love what you do, and I'm sure they will love reading the book. And I wanted to it's after Father's Day, and I want to still wish you a happy belated Father's Day, and I wanted to tie it to a question. What do you tell your son or daughter, when they say, Dad, I want to, you inspire me, I want to, follow in your footsteps? What is the key, do you say, or do you think, if you do, in being successful the way you've been successful? What do you tell someone who wants to follow in your footsteps, or your son or daughter who asked that question?
Yeah. I leave it open for them to do whatever their heart desires. If they feel passionate about something that they want to do, I will back them 100%. I know how tough this business is. I know this is the number one market in the world. I know everybody's trying to get on one of the number one radio stations in the world in New York City. But if you have a burning desire and a passion for what you believe that you want to do, then I say, let's go. I'm going to help you 100%, just like I help other people in the business get what they need, you know. And it may not be that person on the radio. It may not be something at a radio station. But, you know, it may be you want to learn more about how to communicate. And guess what? You can, when you learn how to communicate and learn how to do the things what it takes to get what you need, you can get a job anywhere. A radio station is just one place, you know. But if you have that passion, you can fall into a number of different categories. Of course, communication is also acting.
Passion is the key.
Passion
is the key.
That passion and that burning desire is the key. Yeah.
Okay. You know, and I know that, let's see, because they're looking at me, signaling, you know, telling me, you know, time is, I know we've got about 10 minutes left, but I did want to talk a little bit, you know, to do a little moonwalk and go back in history a little bit to talk about, and you did a little bit in Robert's interview about Percy Sutton, Hal Jackson, WLIB, WBLS, David Dinkins, Roberta Flack, Roscoe Lee Brown, all coming together to create inner city broadcasting. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Was that a special moment, or, you know, by luck they all came together to make this happen for the community? Can you talk a little bit about, you know, how that came about and a little bit about that history?
Yeah. Well, you know, in order to do something, people involved have to move together in the same direction for a common cause. When back in the day when I had that long robe on and I was looking under that big black microscope and I put those animals under there, they're all moving together in the same direction. And if we put something else in there that wasn't like them, then, you know, they would attack it or run away from it. I think Hal Jackson was the radio head and Percy was the business mind, and they came together and they purchased the radio station from the Womacs, WBLS and WLIB, uptown in Harlem. And I think they were trying to borrow from Chemical Bank. It was called Chemical Bank at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And they needed some other investors. So those are some of the investors that came together to move together in the same direction for a common cause. And it worked out wonderfully. They were uptown in Harlem, and then they moved downtown to 801 2nd Avenue. I came in the early 1980 out of college as an intern. And I've learned how to work with these. And God has blessed me to be able to work with some of the greats in this business. I mean, some of the people that have come up, some of the people you hear on radio or heard on radio or see on TV, we've met them, and they're just like us. And that's what I tell youngsters. I met all those people that you see on TV or hear on the radio, but they're just like us. They're just like you. You can do what they do. They just had a burning desire to become that person that they are. So, yeah, I'm glad that Hal Jackson, Percy Sutton, David Dinkins, Roberta Flack, Roscoe Brown, and all of the others came together to help form Inner City Broadcasting, WBLS, WLIB.
Yeah, that's just an amazing story, and I'm just always struck by the story because I think something that you intimated, which is that, and I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, that it doesn't happen that often, and it's, you know, that, you know, like-minded people come together and, you know, that bond increases by other people who feel the same way. And, you know, one person and many people who feel the same way, you know, is a special moment. And when they all come together, it makes for an even special moment. And look at the legacy, you know, from them coming together that, you know, still holds true today.
Absolutely. Danny, you know, not everybody wants the same things out of life. So it's hard to put everybody on the same page. But that was a special one right there. That was a special moment in time, and I'm glad it happened because I became a part of it.
Right.
And we're able to we're able to extend that out to the community.
Yeah. That's
and have everybody
so
feel
true.
love.
Yeah, and that story can't be told enough, talked about enough, shared enough, and I think we'll try and do something about that. And I wanted to ask you, and as I ask everyone, I always say this is probably not a fair question, but when you're in Harlem, do you have a favorite place in Harlem? Maybe a place that you like to eat or you like to relax, and if it's your special place that you don't want anybody to go to, maybe you give us your second favorite.
So I'm not telling. No.
Right. See? Exactly.
No. Well, I always frequent the Harlem State Office Building. I have a lot of friends up there. Of course, I was one of the hosts of the amateur night of the world famous Apollo Theater. I love the Apollo. And then the Corner Social, I go in there sometimes, have a few drinks, get my salmon dish and get, some of my salads and stuff like that, and sit back there with a couple of friends and, and relax. And
chill, relax.
We used to go to Sylvia's. We call it Sylvia's 3G now. I think it's is it 4G, 4 generations? Anyway, we're up there.
It's one of
mom
them,
was up there. Yeah. Yeah, so they're still doing their thing. And all the other restaurants and social places that are popping up over there.
All over the place. Place. Yeah.
I was conceived in Harlem. My mother and father used to live on 138th Street. And let's see, I had 3 brothers that were born up that way. A brother and 2 sisters that were born up there, and then we moved into Queensbridge, and that's where I was born.
Well, then you've got some really serious roots in Harlem, and along with the rest of the family, and that's always a good thing because we love you uptown. So that sounds perfect, and we are down to the last 2 or 3 minutes, Doctor, and how can our listeners stay in contact with you? So that we can know what you're doing, when you're going to do it, so we can join you and just stay on track with all the work that you're doing, brother.
Well, what came out of the On Time program, I started a foundation called the Make the Grade Foundation for Education.
Okay.
And a lot of those books I wrote through Bob Lee Enterprises. I have a publishing company. But I wrote it for the Make the Grade Foundation, which is the collaboration between parent, teacher, student, community, clergy, has some financial literacy and health involved in there. But, makethegrade.org. They're still tightening up that website. But you go on Doc Bob Lee, Facebook, DOCBOBLEE, Facebook, Dr. Bob Lee, Facebook and Twitter. Spell out the whole doctor, DOCTORBOBLEE, Twitter and Facebook. And also, those books that I have, you can go to Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes. It's on the paperback, hardcover, and Kindle. So I usually tell people go to Amazon.com and go there and check them out. You can see all 4 books, and they're wonderful. Well, if you have a library, you need to have this in your library. I urge everybody to get a library. If you don't have a library in your home, start one. Get a little bookcase and just start putting some of your favorite books in there. People to Know in Black History and Beyond is a great book. It's a history book that you should have in there. You can always open it up and say, wow, look at this. And it's great for kids. It's great for the whole family.
That's fantastic. And we're going to put some links when we post this on the site to the books and to the Make the Grade Foundation. And Dr. Bob, you've been making the grade with us up here in Harlem and Harlem World for years. We love the work that you do, all the work that you've done. You could not be humble. You could not be a nice guy. You could be a lot of other things, but you're all those things, and we appreciate you for being the kind of guy you are. And I'm glad that I never played football against you because, I might not be here. But thank you again, Dr. Bob Lee, for being on the show. Really appreciate it, and good luck to you going forward. Thanks, brother.
Danny T, Harlem World Magazine. Danny T. Can I call you Danny T? When I talk about
Of
you on
course.
radio, I can call you Danny T. Right? Danny Tisdale, thank you so much, man. We love you.
Thank you, Dr. Bob Lee. All the
hey,
best,
Danny,
man.
as
Take
I
care.
always say, when I get off the radio, as I always say, remember this: what you are is God's gift to you, and what you make of yourself is your gift to God. So choose your choice and let your choice control the choosing. Catch you another day, another way. Love you all. Peace.
Thank you. Bye-bye.